This is a certified human creative piece of content. Hello, and welcome to a special edition of our In-Crowd podcast, the diagonal internal version of the In-Crowd. We've got our design team on the line, and we're talking about a really awesome new piece of original content that we've created called Monsterland. We are premiering it today, right now. Monster, dreaming of the beach. You see the fun, the sun is just out of reach. Monster, dreaming of the sand, but you're stuck in Monsterland. Monster, of New York, Times Square, taxi cabs in Central Park, the Big Apple, you'd like to roam, but Monsterland is your home. Monster, there's a glimmer in your eye, you're going soon. Drifting through space, wouldn't it be grand? But monster, you're on the ground in Monsterland. Mr. Monster, don't you know how to fly? You could go start. You could go so many places, but Monsterland's in your heart. You could go so many places, but Monsterland is your We made that. This incredible team took that from concept through to delivery of the final piece that we just all witnessed and experienced for the first time. 10 years in the making. A decade ago, I wrote this song about a monster that was, daydreaming about going to other places, but in the end, realized that where he was and where his feet were planted was exactly where he's supposed to be. My partner and also graphic designer and illustrator drew that first picture of the monster, and it kind of just sat until we were ready to make it. And what was awesome is toward the end of last year, our incredible design team here, led by Sydney, we've got Dalmarcus and Desmond, Gabriel, and Joe. Together as one big team, we developed a plan to make this thing, and we did it. Sid, I want to start with you. We started to develop a plan, and I think one of the things I'm never accurate with how long things are going to take. And you tried to reel me in and be a little more realistic because you had done a project like this previously, and you said this is going to take some time. Tell me about how we started to plan for this.
I think from the beginning, I kind of knew that this was going to be a fairly big project. I worked on something similar with a much larger team, and we had a lot more time, and it was half the runtime. So that kind of gave me an idea of like, oh, it's really ambitious to try and finish this in like a month or two. But I kind of used the skills that I learned on that job, and I used kind of the production management, like schedule, like quite literally I used the same template to plan everything out as best as I could, barring client work. while it did take longer than we thought that it was going to, we were really passionate about making this a really great project and using this to kind of showcase all the animation skills that we have to offer at Diagonal through this team. So it was really important for us to follow through and make it to the end. And while it took way longer than we expected, we're really happy that we did it ultimately. So
100%. And you mentioned the reason we did it. One of the big whys behind why we did this was to showcase the talent of our incredible design team who took this from quite literally just one drawing of a monster. And now we have a 2.5-minute awesome showcase piece for our illustrative abilities and 3D design. A lot of different techniques were employed here. So I'm going to start with Delmarcus. You had the heaviest lift. You illustrated and animated 75% of this film. So tell me a bit about your process.
I started off with getting the character turnaround, because you really need that whenever you're gonna do animation. It was just figuring out how he looks from the back and on the side. After that was I think the expression sheet to like see how like elastic his face would look, like when he's happy, sad, and things like that. Then after that was the style frame, just to get like a good baseline of how I think Monsterland looks and the world around him. And it ended up being a lot more like simple and like I guess cartoony than I had originally imagined. So I think it came out well.
Oh, yeah, it's awesome. And I didn't even know that those were the steps that you took. And so, Delmarcus, like, any challenges that you ran into while you were working on this?
See, I think it just in general, like always underestimating how much time things would take. Because I have also done stuff similar to this in college, but the way I did it was I was just animating. I wouldn't have to do like the backgrounds, which I always forget. That takes like half the time. That along with like coloring and stuff. It's a lot more, a lot of parts of it that I just forget, and I had never like thought about like even just like the transition from because I use Toon Boom Harmony. It's a animation program that I learned in college. I make the drawings in that and then I transfer them to After Effects. And it was just a process that I really hadn't actually done in college because most of the time I would just do the drawings and then I would hand off the program to somebody else. But I had to learn how to do it.
Wow. Amazing. Well, I will tell you that it doesn't look like you were learning while you were going. I thought you were already an expert because it just came together so fluidly. And we had a lot of awesome discussions about what Monsterland looked like, and everybody on the team was involved. And I think, Mr. Monster travels to the moon, he travels to the beach, he travels to New York. And so our idea there was to personify those experiences in different animation styles. So we had Gabriel, Joe, and Desmond come in, and let's talk a bit about going to the beach. Gabriel, what was your process?
I was trying to find this sort of painterly style is kind of like the first transition, right? The first style that deviates. So it has a little bit of the same like illustrated, hand-drawn kind of feeling from Delmarcus's and the base Monsterland, but it gets a little bit different, right? I thought of the water being flowing. So that's where I kind of went with the paint sort of texture. And eventually, yeah, I landed on, I did similar like kind of frame by frame things, and I added some techniques for brushwork and things like that. I think it was fun just finding the shots to use, like wiping his hand across the sand and different things that kind of added a bit of texture to it. I thought was really fun.
So did you trace over existing clips, or what was your process like to get where you ended up?
We used, Delmarcus's illustrations and, Dan's original illustrations as the base. And then, yeah, I just went in Photoshop and I was painting over those and then extrapolating that. And there were some tools that I used that would like blend frames, like in the sand part, you can see it's kind of wiggly and wobbly after so that's just an After Effects tool that kind of interpolates the frames and things like that. So there's a mix of like basically just frame by frame drawing in Photoshop and then using some things to kind of meld it together.
Yeah, I love the beach scene. It feels very beachy. Can I say that? And then Joe, you took us to outer space in a quirky way. Tell us about your process.
Yeah, it was really fun to kind of explore how we were gonna make this fantasy kind of setting with the monsters live in space, right? So, I mean, I had to look up tons of inspiration and research a lot of things. Ultimately, I ended up landing on more of a pop-up book type of a visual. So I drew inspiration from actually a lot of video games, because Paper Mario is the biggest one that comes to mind. It seemed like the perfect example of what we were trying to achieve. There's also other inspiration like movies, for example. Like there's one called The Little Prince, where I actually got a lot of the color and the ambience and feel of the backgrounds for, because it also takes place in space for a bit there. But yeah, so part of the process was working with Marcus after he finished like all the illustration and everything, and just really trying to figure out how would this look like if it was like a paper cutout, right? So there was a little bit experimentation there, trying to figure out how to make it look like paper. One thing that sets this apart is there's a lot of texture as well, texture and shadows to help kind of push certain elements, certain parts of that scene out, so it looks like things are popping up, moving around, but without a mechanical feel to it. And by that I means like there you don't see strings on like the planets or stuff moving around. So it still feels like it's a living world. It was a lot of fun, a lot of exploration here, and it would be awesome to do something like this again. It really would be.
Okay, and then we go to New York City, and it got a little more complicated. So we went to a 3D world, and Desmond, how'd that all come together?
I think at first beginning designing the shots of the scene by listening to the song many times, trying to interpret the lyrics, in a fun way, in a way that, children will enjoy rather something very designy. I think I'll look at like set design, theater production, set design for like New York, kind of abstract New York City and Central Park. At one point, I just realized, maybe I'm complicating things and just need to be simplified to just the city. Because like in the song they mentioned Big Apple, New York City, Times Square, and Central Park, right? And that I could interpret it as like four scenes, four shots. But then more shots, more scenes equals more assets, right? And then it's just complicate things down the line. And yeah, I think in the end we decided to just go with the one scene where Mr. Monster drives through the city, and it worked very well. I think very much thanks to Gabriel, because after I came back from Singapore and I look at the current cut, and Gabriel had kind of utilized the shots that I've been, animating, and the camera motion works. It enters the scene very well, and it leaves the scene very well as well. And yeah, I think challenge was just that I didn't have the clarity to see that, okay, I was on the right track. Just gotta have someone, just do the rearranging.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of teamwork coming to the front to make this a reality. So final question for you all, like, what was the best part and what would you do differently next time? So Delmarcus, I'll start with you.
I think like getting to use what I learned in college along with what I learned at Diagonal together, because I didn't think I was going to ever get to do that, but it's cool getting to be able to combine that to graphic design and like traditional animation parts together.
How about you, Joe? Anything that you learned from this process?
I mean, the part I enjoyed about it though was making the Mr. Monster character come to life. Just really taking those illustrations that Marcus made about the character turnaround, and actually I got a animating a rig. So now we have a fully customizable 360 rig of Mr. Monster in paper cutout format.
Okay.
And it was just really fun, really being able to get those like certain expressions and making him actually look like he's moving around in this world. A challenge though was, since this was a kind of a 3D space we were working with for that scene, the process was kind of new for me in that regard. So if I would do it again, I would probably do a lot better job of cleaning things up, organized in terms of layers.
Desmond and Gabriel, what challenges did you face, and what did you learn?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was perfect to do this first iteration of Monsterland with like all these different styles. Because I think one thing, the challenge was like all of us getting on the same page. So it's cool that we got to explore all these things. But yeah, for the future, I think having more time like in pre-production to really everybody explore and then come back to unify the vision before going forward. But I think that, the way it worked out was perfect for the first time too.
Yeah, for me, I think it pushed me out of my comfort zone because when I do 3D stuff, I'm always making something more abstract, something realistic, some orbs flying here and there, right? But this for Monsterland, it was like kind of representational. Everything is abstracted, right? Kind of like miniatures. But every time there's a character involved or there are like just many components to animate, I'm a little bit like kind of afraid. But I think you just have to approach it one by one, and you'll get done. So yeah, that part, I think I learned a lot, and it was fun.
Sid, I'm coming back to you. So part of this certified human creative initiative that we're kind of, I don't know, putting out there from Diagonal Media's perspective, Monsterland is 100% created by human, minds. Finish up with you here. Why do you think it's important that we continue to have human creativity, especially maybe in this genre of kids content?
That is a great question, Blake. In the current times, we're seeing the emergence of AI, which is great for many reasons, and I guess not so great for other reasons. I do think it is important for us to kind of preserve the creative works of actual human beings and, making sure that those are the people that we are recognizing when we're creating works like this, rather than turning to, I guess, simpler routes through AI. I do think it is super, super important for us to just keeping the work as organic as we can where possible. I do think that there are some great uses for AI in some situations, but I think something like this, especially geared towards children, I think it is more impactful, and it feels more emotional when it's coming from real people and it's created by the minds of like real people.
I could not have said that better myself. I 100% agree with you. Monsterland is emblematic of what we're able to do when our entire design and animation team bands together around a common cause to create a great piece of content, an original piece of content that is emotional, tells a story, and can have an impact for kids and adults alike. So we're going to play Monsterland one more time here at the end. We hope you love it. Share it. And well done, team. You did a great job on this. I hope everybody's really proud of it. Thanks. Monster dreaming of the beach. You see the fun, the sun is just out of reach. Monster dreaming of the sand, but you're stuck in Monsterland. Monster dreaming of New York, Times Square, taxi cabs in Central Park, the Big Apple you'd like to roam, but Monsterland is your home. Monster there's a glimmer in your eye, you're going soon. Drifting through space, wouldn't it be grand? But monster, you're on the ground in Monsterland. Mr. Monster, don't you know how to fly? You could go anywhere, but you don't. We
Monsterland.